The airport vouchers totaling $43,702.62 are before you. Are there any questions regarding any of the vouchers?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Move to approve in a second. Voice vote.
Lind.
Aye.
Engen.
Aye.
Haugen.
Aye.
Cosgriff.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. Number 3, receive and approve the proposed construction services agreement with Mead and Hunt, subject to independent fee review.
Hey, no, Jeff Klein from Mead and Hunt is on the phone there. They have a contract before us that entails all the construction services associated with the expansion of the cargo apron to accommodate UPS, along with the access road, the fencing, the apron lighting, and so forth. Their proposed fee is $1,382,500 plus $9,352 to close out the supplemental grant, and an additional $9,352 to close out the normal airport improvement grant number 50. So that totals a little over $1.4 million. So this, the Federal Aviation Administration requires that these contracts go before an independent fee review, and we have Wes Schoen out in Bozeman, Montana, former Fargoan, reviewing that. And I just got the preliminary report back from him last night. Haven't had a chance to go through all of the details on his fee review. But if you approve the contract today, the fee review, we'll share that with you as soon as we get done with the analysis of that and make any adjustments that are necessary for this contract to go forward.
Madam Chairman,
Yes?
the fee review is basically a precursor to making sure any funds, federal or otherwise, that are used are available and in accordance.
It's actually what the engineer in this case is estimating their cost to be to do the work. So this is another independent engineer that's going through to say if their costs are in line with what they believe that the industry is. And I believe, Jeff, is it, you can be within 10%, is it?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, so if his fee review comes back that it's more than 10%, then we have to go through a negotiation with Mead and Hunt to lower the fee for the work.
I think what Rick was asking is this is a step we have to take
Yes.
to ensure the federal.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
You're correct.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That is
All right.
correct. Yep, this is a required step in the process before contract can be signed. That's correct.
Motion to approve the contract.
Okay? Is there a
I'd second it.
Second, it's moved and seconded to approve the contract, the service agreement, subject to independent fee review.
Correct.
Voice vote, please.
Lind.
Aye.
Engen.
Aye.
Haugen.
Aye.
Cosgriff.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. Thank you. And so we should have that for the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Number 4, receive proximity agreement with Luxon 25th Street North Addition.
Okay, notice this item on the Planning Commission agenda, and anytime that there's been a change of zoning in and around the airport, this is right off the west edge of the approach to runway 18, extended 25th Street North, or just north of 40th Avenue North. I think you all saw it in your packet. So what we do is we alert the Planning Commission, in this case Don Kress has been working with us for a number of years, along with Stacy, to come up with a standard proximity agreement that the city engages, and they do recognize the airport along with the sewage lagoons and so forth. Most of the properties in this area that have already been platted and developed went through this same process. Gary Stewart and I worked on that along with the Planning Commission at that time, and this is just another one of those parcels of property that's coming up for a zoning change from ag to limited industrial, and we caught it, and we'll move forward with the zoning proximity agreement.
Are there any questions about the agreement? Do we need to vote on this?
Yes.
Voice vote?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll move to approve it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to receive the proximity agreement with Luxon 25th Street North Addition. Any other questions? Yes.
My only, not a question, but a statement. It seems like the initial owners are always cognizant of the restrictions and noise and the like. It's the time this is sold the third time when the new owner is going to raise a fuss about airport noise.
Airport noise.
Just a pet peeve.
I think Stacy, I know the draft was sent out from Don Crest to the property owner. Have you gotten any feedback on that, Stacy?
I have not as of yet, but I suspect we'll hear something this week.
Okay, thank you.
I think you're right, though, going from agricultural to limited industrial, you know, there might be some communication there. All right, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I've got to abstain.
Abstain?
Yep.
Opposed, same sign.
To be
Okay,
clear,
abstain.
I'm a tenant in a property of theirs in Moorhead.
Okay.
Property owner, so.
Sounds good? So Rick abstained. Number 5, receive revised aeronautical service agreement with Canert Aviation, DBA Red River Aero, and Fargo Air Charter.
This is basically a housekeeping item. Lyle Anvik, former commander of the Air National Guard, has operated Red River Aero, or Kinnard Aviation, doing business as Red River Aero, doing charter services for a number of years off the airfield. And Lyle is an aeronautical service provider. I think I explained that in the agenda packet, which is different than a fixed-base operator, a full-service fixed-base operator like Fargo Jet Center, or a limited FBO like Fargo Aircraft Maintenance and David Saul. So in 1979, the Airport Authority allowed aeronautical service providers to do business on the airfield as long as they had a relationship or a contract with either a limited FBO or an FBO. And in exchange for doing that, they had to pay $200 per month or 1.5% of gross revenue, whichever was greater. That calm down. And Lyle is in that. So when Lyle set up services here, he was working under Vic's Aircraft Sales. As we know, Vic retired and that business has been sold. So this kind of brings him up to speed on the agreement that he has in place now with David Saul at Fargo Aircraft Maintenance to allow him to provide passenger charter service off the airfield for that $200 a month or 1.5%, whichever is greater.
Any questions about this?
No.
Is that for information?
You can approve it, the
Okay.
change.
Is there a motion to approve the change?
Motion.
Second.
Second. Moved in second to approve the changes noted in number 5. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Number 6, receive bid tabulation and recommendation of award from TL Stroh for SRE building fuel system and construction testing services.
So is Terry Stroh, I see that you're on. Are you there, Terry?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. Okay.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Jen.
Well, this was one of the items that was in the bid opening for the snow removal equipment building, where we awarded at our last meeting the 3 contracts for general, electrical, and mechanical. We went out and rebid the fuel dispensing and storage system because the bidder that came in didn't have the required paperwork in their outside envelope. So TL Stroh went back out and got bids from O'Day Tank and Steel and Valley Petroleum. And you can see the base bid from O'Day Tank and Steel is $274,286. And if we install a fiberglass fuel tank, which I wasn't aware of that existed, they will do a deduct of $3,967.97 for a total of $270,318.03. That's about $6,000 lower than Valley Petroleum and Equipment. And then also construction testing services. Terracon, Northern Technologies, and Braun Intertech responded to a request from TL Stroh to provide those construction testing services. And Terracon was the low bidder on that for $19,016. Terry, do you have any more information on the fiberglass tank, and is that recommended? Is that what we should be doing?
When we talked to the Valley Petroleum guys, they were basically saying that it's an option, but for some reason, most people go straight with the metal ones. Evidently, they add a coating of fiberglass or something to this thing. He wasn't really excited about it. So I think for the small deduct in overall price, it may be best to just read the base bid.
Okay. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Jim O'Day on his experience with with these fiberglass tanks. I think it's fairly new technology that's out there, and I would concur that we should just stay with the normal steel tank, and all of the precautions and technology that's been put into those now, I think has really come a long ways in the last 10 years, let alone the last 20 years.
Okay,
But O'Day is still the low bidder.
Yes.
okay.
So my recommendation is that you'd award the fuel dispensing and storage systems to O'Day Tank and Steel and the construction testing services to Terracon.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'd move.
Okay,
Second.
second, it's been moved and seconded. The contractor, O'Day Tank and Steel, for the fuel dispensing and storage system, and Terracon for construction testing services. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, there will be a voice vote. Is that,
We can
we
do it that
usually do a
way.
voice
That's
vote,
fine.
yeah. Voice vote here.
Lind?
Aye.
Engen?
Aye.
Haugen?
Aye.
Cosgriff? Lynn?
Aye. Thank you. Receive and authorize acceptance of CARES Act grant offer from the FAA, subject to review by legal counsel.
Okay, so as you're aware, Congress in their CARES Act carved out $10 billion for airports across the country. That was distributed to hundreds of airports across the country. And unless something changes in the next 24 hours, Fargo's share of the CARES Act is $21,637,515. When the announcement was originally made, there was no expiration date to the funds. Since that time, there's now a 4-year expiration date to use those funds. And we have conference calls now a couple times a week with AAAE National and the FAA, getting more definition on the allowable expenses that they'll have there, replacing a lawnmower, reconstructing a parking lot. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that the FAA is looking at in terms of what that eligibility will be. So last week I did sign the grant application that was provided by the FAA for that amount. And when I had signed it, they said that we would see the grant last Friday, or by no later than 5 o'clock yesterday. I haven't received the grant yet, but I did have a conversation with Jason Kroll, who's our program manager with the FAA in Bismarck, and they expected that we'll get the grant at any point. So your acceptance of this here will have Stacy review the grant. It's a typical FAA grant with a few tweaks in terms of grant assurances and so forth, but we will receive it. It'll be held in a fund for us, and we will draw down from that fund just like we do for our Airport Improvement Program grants right now that we have. So we can draw down payroll, electricity expenses, basically anything that we're doing operationally for the next 4 years.
So they will give us the criteria of what we can use it for, is that correct?
Yeah, the criteria right now is based upon an FAA policy, the use of airport revenues. It's a 100-some page document that's out there, and I can send that to you. And now they're just going through some more refined definition of that policy that the FAA made a number of years ago. But we'll put it to good use and go from there. And if anything changes, we'll let you know.
Mike?
Madam Chairman, I don't know if any of the rest of the board has been watching some of the news lately, but there's been 2 exposés on Valley News Live by out of I believe Madison, Wisconsin, and they cite one airport in North Dakota as getting way too much money, and that's Devil's Lake. And last night was another exposé on, and FAA representatives were not on to discuss it. Only thing is, they've said they're going to review the grants, and so it's still got some turmoil with it.
Okay.
I know that.
Good to know. Any other discussion or questions?
We can do a voice vote
Well,
on the acceptance.
Yep, we'll do a voice vote on receiving authorized acceptance of the CARES Act grant.
Can we get a motion?
Is there a motion on the floor?
Move.
And second.
Thank you. Voice vote, please.
Lind?
Aye.
Engen?
Aye.
Haugen?
Aye.
Cosgriff?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye. Discuss the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund, ND Public Health Insurance Trust for group health insurance and other benefit programs.
On April 7th, Brennan Quintus from the North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund had sent out a notice to a number of public agencies, or I suppose all public agencies within the state, informing them that NDRF has recently partnered with the Southeast Education Cooperative to create the North Dakota Public Health Insurance Trust. The primary function of the North Dakota Public Health Insurance Trust is to provide local governments with group health insurance and other benefit programs and services within the scope of a voluntary employee beneficiary association trust. And basically overall, as North Dakota Public Health Trust will provide North Dakota local governments with an opportunity to join together to create group health insurance and employee benefit program administrative cost stability and efficiency, while also providing local governments with more control over their health insurance and other employee benefit programs. They did set up some online tutorials, and I know Joan participated in one along with Rick Engen. And I guess, Rick, if you want to tell us what you learned.
Yeah, it was a very well put together presentation. The premise was they have mastered their process of explaining what they do, how they do it. They used real time and real clients, specifically Grand Forks schools. And because it's public, it's very much open, an open format. Everything is known. One statement used that I thought was very interesting was the term grandfathered. It really only applies if what is grandfathered is better than what is offered today. And I think they made a very good argument for the fact that what's offered today is probably better than anything that's been grandfathered. And so I think we need to do more research on it. I think the city of Fargo should make an effort to go through the presentation and compare apples for apples and see if something like it benefits the city of Fargo and the employees of the city of Fargo, as well as our process that we're going to do.
Okay. Thank you for that. I know.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you know, of course, the city of Fargo will welcome any and all explorations of anything that could potentially benefit all of our employees. So, Rick, thanks for bringing that forward. The question is, has anybody communicated with our HR department, or do we need to initiate this at this point?
They would have to.
I would assume that the HR department should have been on the email distribution list, so they should be aware. It was sent to every government entity in the state according to the email we received. So I know airports, counties, school districts, park districts were all on the call. So whoever got it at City Hall may have missed the
Madam
email.
Chair?
Yes.
John,
My question is, has there been any communication yet, or should we initiate that?
Well,
Just to be sure.
I think what Sean said is that somebody at the city, like all other government entities, should have been aware and gotten the information about the presentation. So whether they acted on it or not, we don't know. And Rick?
Madam Chair, we will get the contact information and get it off to you, John, and get it
Yep.
off to the city. But yeah, they should have communicated to everybody, and then they offered a number of interactive online conversations about it. But we'll get that information to you today.
Good. We look forward to working on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for doing that, Rick and Joan. Really appreciate it.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
One thing I found interesting is they were very open to any problems they had, solutions they found. They were very open about it, and it was refreshing that there was an open community to try and solve problems. That was very impressive.
Good. Were there a lot of people on the call?
Yeah, there were.
Hundreds. In fact, it was so busy the first day the system crashed.
System,
They had 3 different days,
3 different
Tuesday,
days.
Wednesday, Thursday last week.
Wow, okay. And those are videoed so people can watch them?
We have requested the slide deck as well as the presentation, yes.
Perfect. So maybe if the city can't get that information, then once we get it, we can provide it to them?
Yeah, we'll provide it regardless,
Great,
yes.
great. Thank you. Number 9, recognition of Fargo Jet Center as a top aviation service company in the 2020 Aviation International News FBO Survey.
Awesome. Jim Sweeney, are you online?
Yes, I am, sir.
All right. Well, Jim, congratulations on this to you and your team for once again being ranked as a top aviation service company in the 2020 Airport International News FBO Survey. And this is by the users that come through the facility that rank this all over the world. And this is a big deal for not only Fargo Jet Center, but for the airport and the entire community to know that we have a top level aviation service company operating here in our community and our state. So Jim, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I like that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes. Would you like to say anything, Jim?
No, I would. Just, we really appreciate this. We really share this recognition with all partners at the airport, in the community, the Airport Authority, Customs and Border Protection, all the FAA people, both in the tower and those that run the facilities on the airfield. All of that contributes to us taking care of our customers and really providing an experience that they remember and rank us. And it's fun if you get a moment sometime, take a look at Aviation International News, you'll find the survey pretty easily. We missed the top 5% by 1/100th of a point.
Wow.
But the important part is when you look at the rest of these cities here, they're major metropolitan areas and they're destinations. And Fargo's probably the smallest community in the ranking, in the top ranking. So we're really proud. I want to thank our team at the Fargo Jet Center too, that's there 24 hours a day, always trying to excel in what we do. So we appreciate it. Thanks.
Congratulations. Great job. Well, number 10, before this COVID-19 came about, we decided to do a High Flyer Award. And this award would be given to a person who should receive the recognition from us. And exceptional client service was one of the things that we looked at, and that they had to be recommended and specifically nominated for their client service, their ongoing commitment to the Municipal Airport Authority and Hector International Airport as a premier provider of services. And what has this employee or person affiliated with the airport, what have they done to go above and beyond? And any other support. Our very first High Flyer Award we're awarding today, and she is on the phone, and I'd like to congratulate Darlene Josie. Congratulations, Darlene, and I'm going to have Sean say a little bit about you, okay?
All right, Darlene, are you there? Darlene, can you hear us?
Looks like she's dialed in.
Yeah, she's on mute.
You.
Yeah, she's on mute.
Okay, all right. Well, Darlene had retired from the federal courthouse after a long distinguished career there, but has been involved in the Airport Information Center. It's kind of as a volunteer coordinator for many, many years, coordinating all the volunteer activities, working in conjunction with the Fargo Memorial Convention and Visitors Bureau, who was kind of overseeing the Airport Information Center for a few years after RSVP had given it up. And then CVB came in. Now we're back to the retired senior volunteer program. But Darlene has spent hours and hours at our information center, keeping things tidy, making sure that it's staffed properly. And in addition to volunteering, we also had Darlene the last two times that TSA PreCheck came to Fargo in the airport here, and we had hundreds of people that were coming through to sign up for TSA PreCheck. She coordinated that in conjunction with the consultant that the TSA Homeland Security hires, being kind of the gatekeeper, if you will, for everyone that showed up here at the airport for those two events. And we have another one scheduled for the end of May. I'm not sure if that's going to happen yet, but we'll see. Not only training the new volunteers, maintaining all of the information manuals that are maintained at the information center, and I think all of the staff here would agree, and any of the tenants in the terminal, that Darlene continues to go above and beyond whenever she can to assist the passengers and anyone that she comes into contact with, either in person or on the phone. They get a lot of phone calls down at the information center, which takes a lot of the burden off of our office to answer any questions that do come in. Darlene and her husband Ralph have been longtime supporters of the Fargo Air Museum, been on the committee for the Fargo Air Show for, I think, since its inception. So Darlene, congratulations for that, and we're happy to honor you in that manner. So there's a copy of the award here that we'll send to you. It's just just something to recognize you can hang on your wall in recognition of all the hard work and the hours of service that you've given the airport.
Darlene, do you have anything to say? Do you want to take yourself off mute?
I know that she's on there.
I know, I see her.
Okay.
Darlene, if not, we look forward to seeing you at one of our upcoming meetings when they are open again, but I'd like to have our board give you a round of applause, okay? Congratulations. That's awesome. We look forward to giving out more high flyer awards because we know there are a lot of people associated with our airport that deserve it. Number 11, air service update, airport construction and security update.
Okay, on the air service update, at the last meeting I informed you that Frontier Airlines had filed a petition with the Department of Transportation to suspend service at 35 airports across the country from mid-April until June 10th. Later, they filed an amendment to their proposal to take 2 airports off and still proceed with 33 airports. And just just in the last couple of days, the Department of Transportation rejected Frontier's request to suspend service at 33 communities, and they are allowing them to suspend service in 3 of the 33 communities, and Fargo's not on that list. So Frontier will continue to provide at least 1 flight per week here to Fargo, Sioux Falls, Grand Rapids, Bozeman, Colorado Springs, and other airports. I'm not quite sure where that sits with Frontier and their financial capability to do so, but I'll be on the phone today with their properties folks and network planners to find out what their plan is going forward to continue to serve Fargo. In addition, the FAA finalized a list of reducing hours at a few hundred air traffic control towers across the country, and Fargo was not on that list, I think primarily due to the fact that we do not have pilot-controlled runway lighting. So I know board member Linda and Haugen understand what that is, but the pilot can control the lighting and other nav aids from the cockpit of the aircraft. We don't have that capability here, but they do at some other airports. So far, we're not on that list. We'll continue to provide 24/7 air traffic control tower services, but Duluth, Grand Forks, Sioux Falls, and other airports across the country had their hours reduced due to that. So on the airport construction side, on Thursday here, we will open bids for the air cargo apron expansion project. And then just following that, we'll open bids for the car rental ready lot reconstruction project as well. That will be taking place on Thursday, and we hope to have that information all compiled and ready for you to receive the bid tabulation and recommendation of award at our May 12th meeting. On the security side, I think passenger-wise, Darren probably knows more than I on this, but we're screening probably way less than 50 passengers a day, probably in that 2 to 3 dozen if we're lucky. Inbound traffic has still been fairly well as snowbirds continue to return. I think Allegiant has almost a full flight coming in today. And but they're still continuing to operate some flights. I think the only Allegiant flight that's operating right now is 1 flight a week at least, sometimes 2 to Mesa. American to Dallas and Chicago is kind of sporadic with 1 to 2 flights a day. Same with United, 1 to 2 flights a day to Denver. And Delta seems to be in that 1 to 3 flight a day range. So every day is a little bit different, but nationwide boardings are still down between 90 and 95% nationwide. So to get the traveling public back is going to be a real challenge, but we'll see where that goes. The plan to replace the X-ray machine at our checkpoint, that's been indefinitely put on hold. I don't know if they'll probably put that off until sometime next year on that. Outside of that, we do have a contract that's pending with Mead & Hunt to do a passenger terminal expansion study, which is needed before we can justify the expansion of the terminal, the apron reconstruction that needs to take place here at the West Terminal area, replacement of the boarding bridge at Gate 4, and a whole host of other things there. And we may consider moving that forward after some discussions with the FAA and the State Aeronautics Commission on doing a passenger terminal study right now, knowing what our passenger volumes are at this time. So outside of that, we'll have a full agenda for May 12th. I don't have anything else to add, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Haugen?
Yeah.
I have something.
Okay.
The SRA building,
Yes?
you guys want to hear about that?
Yes.
Basically, you've got contract, I believe, to you, Sean, if you don't, maybe get them today. We can get a notice proceed to the contractors, and waiting for a permit. We're already starting shop drawings and stuff, so it's really not slowing things down. Takes a little while to get rebar or shop drawings or stuff like that, but so we should be starting soon.
Yeah, I worked with the city inspections department this week to get the address assigned to the project. And I do have a box full of contracts, and I'll take those contracts down to Stacy today for her review. And upon her review and concurrence, we can probably move forward with a notice to proceed for all 3 of those. Well, actually now 5 of those contracts based on what was awarded today for fuel and construction testing.
Right. Madam Chair?
Mr. Hogan's gonna go next.
Yes.
I've got one thing to add to Sean's. I read an interview that was done with Delta Airlines president, and he says it's going to take Delta Airlines 3 years to get back to where they were. I also saw that Virgin Atlantic is, Sir Richard Branson has that airline up for sale, and if it's not sold by end of May, he'll probably liquidate. So there's casualties starting
Yeah,
quite quickly here.
thank you. Who else?
Madam Chair, this is Eric Johnson.
Okay,
2 weeks ago at the meeting, the question about the ND PERD was raised, and I happened to be here for another item, but you asked if the city could provide a report back at this meeting, and visiting with Commissioner Strand, I know he and Commissioner Ingen and Sean had a meeting at the City Hall with Ken Byler and others, and I know John was going to provide a little bit of an update on that meeting. John, if you're prepared to do that, and I can fill in the blanks with respect to the one question that came out of that meeting. If not, John, I can give an update. You may not know.
Eric, if you could, I just didn't have the notes in front of me at this moment, sorry, but please go ahead and do that.
All right. Well, I wasn't there, but from what I understand, there was a discussion about the issues surrounding the ND PERS. And of course, there are, just to back up for a second, there are a handful of employees at the airport that still participate in the sort of so-called the long-standing city pension plan, the one that was in existence back in 1969, 1970, and that they still participate in that plan. Just as at City Hall, most of the employees participate in the city's pension account, we'll call it at ND PERS, and as do airport employees. And so the question was just whether to sever off the airport employees and going to an ND PERS account. There's a sort of a separate sub-issue, as perhaps you all know, so forgive me if I'm repeating things that everyone's familiar with, but sort of a separate issue is just whether the firefighters at the airport, rescue and firefighters, can be cordoned off, there are 10 or so of those, and enter an ND PERS account for public safety. So again, I wasn't at this meeting, so I can't give much of a report on the meeting itself. I see Mayor Mahoney was on the call here, but apparently had to leave. But my understanding is there's a discussion about that prospect and the possibility that the mayor is suggesting of exploring the city firefighter pension, which has sort of a multiplier of 2.5, as opposed to the multiplier of the ND PERS, which was 2.0 prior to January 1st of this year, and at least for new entrants drops to 1.75. In visiting with Stacy subsequently, apparently the question has been asked and favorably resolved that if the firefighters were to transfer over to the public safety, they would sort of be grandfathered in and not a new entrant, and would stay at the 2.0, which would be beneficial, of course. But yet, there was discussion about exploring the idea of participating in the City of Fargo firefighter pension. And I believe their intent is to do that. I wasn't there, but so the narrow question that was left for Stacy and myself to explore the kind of assignment was whether or not Andy PERS would allow the firefighters, airport rescue firefighters, to go into the public safety Andy PERS pension that has that earlier retirement age, without triggering the need for all of the City of Fargo public safety workers, police and fire, to also go in there. That would be a bit of a non-starter, and so that would be a problem if that were a requirement of Andy PERS. Stacey and I had a discussion about that question just to isolate it, and I've reached out to the member of the Attorney General's office that Stacey and I communicated with back in February, and somebody else is now on the task, so we'll be in touch with that new person with the Attorney General's office to line up a conversation. I'm sure it'll end up also including somebody from NDPERS, but Stacey and I thought that the best place to start would be the person from the Attorney General's office with whom we last spoke. That's the status report.
Okay. I want to make sure Eric receives all the minutes, right?
Not directly, but
Not
they're
directly.
always available
Yeah.
on the.
It was, Eric, it was in the last, under other business, there was a whole description and about just what you were talking about. So, any comments?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
the conversation we had ended with the city putting together a comparative of the different plans, the pros and cons. And once that had been done, we were going to come back to the body. I guess I didn't know we were going to talk about it today. Ahead of that information seems a bit premature.
Okay. So the City of Fargo is going to put a comparative together and then we'll readdress it.
That's correct.
Okay, so we need to make sure that if, once that comes forward, that we put it on the agenda. So, so if it is open to discussion, because we want to make sure the public is aware of it.
Yes.
Okay?
Just keep in mind that 5 of the 10 employees over there are in a defined contribution plan and are not eligible for the public safety plan. That came directly from North Dakota PERS, Mary Jo, back in August of 2019. And in order for them to get into that defined contribution plan, the state legislature took action to allow that to happen as we transition from the North Dakota Air National Guard Fire Department to them becoming Airport Authority employees. So the other 5 are in the main plan that are eligible for the public safety plan. And whether or not they will actually decide to enroll in that remains to be seen, but like I say, I think want the option to have access to that. We are expecting 2 retirements this year, and it would be neat to have this defined before those retirements takes place, so the new employees coming on board know what their options are. And if they are eligible for the public safety plan, we would like them to have access to that if that's what they so choose.
Okay. Any other further business? Okay. Thank you all for attending today. And Mike, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you all for attending today. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the 12th. Meeting adjourned.